So they were just chilling in there, and then I just wanted to bring them in so they wouldn't get stolen outside, and I was putting them away, and he came in and started looking at it, and I told him not to grab it, and he grabbed it and shot himself.
Okay. So we're going to get into a little bit more detail with that.
Okay.
So it was underneath the seat.
Yep.
You brought them inside. Where'd you set them down?
On the bed, where I was checking, make sure they were unloaded.
So when you brought them inside, this was on the bed in your room?
Yes. This was that room there. And then I put the clip back in the bottom. Unloaded.
1 second. Sorry, man, I write really slow. I want to make sure I get all this detail, okay? Without you having to, repeat it multiple times. Okay, man? Okay, so you brought it into your room.
Yes.
And you put them on your bed.
Yes.
Once you had them on the bed, sorry, man, I know the light's bright. Once you had them on the bed, you unloaded them, is what you said?
Yeah, I made sure, I pulled the clip, made sure there was nothing in there. Released the hammer and put the clip back in the bottom and set it back down, and I was doing that, and he came in and I said, don't pick it up and try to fire it.
Did Finn come down? After I had just got done checking the Glock, and that's the one he picked up. Where were you when he picked it up, and I guess where was the Glock? So I had the other guns there, and he was here, and all the pillows were right here, and I had just checked it and set it down, and then started to get the other one, and then that's when he came in and grabbed that one up and started looking at it and stuff, and I told him to put it down, he was being a little bit reckless.
How so?
Just waving around and stuff, and he almost cocked the slide after it was clear, but there was the clip in there, so if he cocked it, it would be ready to go.
Oh.
20-year-old Coleman Carver at the time had just moved to Fort Collins and started working with his uncle doing some landscaping and plowing. The Colorado State University hired them to do some landscaping, and while doing this job, Coleman met some of the students who attended the school on a CSU Facebook swap and trade group. They all became friends, and eventually they allowed Coleman to move in with them. Finnegan Daly was a 21-year-old senior from Fort Collins, Colorado. At the time, he was a senior at Colorado State University with a double major in business and political science. In one of his classes, he had made a list of his future goals in life. He hoped to one day travel abroad, buy a house, run a marathon, become a certified financial planner, and settle down and start a family. Finn's mother Regina said he was the type of person who was smart, talented, kind, very serious, and knew what he wanted in life. The spring semester at CSU was 2 days away from starting, and Finn was ready to get back at his classes. But little did he know that on January 14th, all his goals for his future would come to an end during a supposed self-inflicted shooting. But just 2 months later, a Snapchat picture would bring about multiple questions and the case to be reopened. On the night of January 14th, 2018, Coleman and his cousin Jared had taken Finn to his mom's house in Westminster, while they went to the Western Stock Show and Rodeo. While Finn was in Westminster, he went out with his brother for a bit and played chess with his mom before he decided to go to bed. After the Western Stock Show and Rodeo were over, Coleman and Jared picked Finn back up. Coleman dropped his cousin off at his girlfriend's house, and then he and Finn headed back home. Once Coleman and Finn had arrived back at the shared split-level house, Coleman started to unload all his weapons. Coleman had 4 guns, a military-style AR-15 carbine, Remington pump-action shotgun, Springfield .45 caliber handgun, and a Glock 34 9mm semi-automatic handgun, with an attached flashlight and 17-round magazine, and placed them downstairs on the couch before he went upstairs to have a couple of drinks with Finn before heading to bed. Finn had already started drinking earlier that day, so the boys decided on shots of tequila. Finn had 4 shots and Coleman had 6. They drank until 3 in the morning, and then Coleman decided he was going to start getting ready for bed, so he went downstairs, took his weapons to his bedroom to unload, and put them all away. He first emptied the Glock 34, reattached the 17-round ammunition magazine, set it down on the bed, and started doing the same with the AR-15 carbine. Coleman told police that Finn came into his room, picked up the gun, and was being reckless. Finn was pointing the gun towards Coleman, waving it around and making jokes about all the guns they had. Coleman then said to Finn, "Dude, you can't be waving guns around like that," but he wasn't listening. Coleman said he saw from the corner of his eye that Finn pulled the slide back, which loaded a bullet into the chamber, aimed the gun under the right of his chin, and he pulled the trigger. Finn then fell onto the bed and Coleman saw a pool of blood. He tried to shake Finn's leg, but he didn't respond. Coleman began to call different members of his family because he didn't know what to do. His stepdad was able to get Coleman calmed down, and 15 minutes after the shot had been fired, Coleman called the police.
Right now we got, or you told me that you had put the guns on the bed.
Yep.
Start from there.
Put the guns on the bed. I was checking the next one. I have a AR-22, and I was about to check that one. He came in, and I was like, he picked it up like you shouldn't pick up a gun, and I told him not to mess around with it.
What do you mean by like you shouldn't grab a gun?
He just like you pick it up and you don't.
So how did he pick it up?
He just like picked it up and was like, and then went to grab.
So he grabbed it by the handguard,
like you would if
by the stock of the
yeah pistol.
Okay.
Just, you know.
And he started pointing it around?
Yeah. And so that's when I told him not to do that. And so he set it down. And then I look over to start cleaning mine. And I see this, release, and boom. And that's all it, like.
So he pulled the slide back?
Yes.
After the police department talked with Coleman a little at the house, they drove him to the police station for more questioning.
Carver, I just want to make sure that you came down here to talk to us voluntarily, right? To tell us what happened. You're good with talking to me right now.
Yeah, I was wondering actually, like, I have no problem. Like, I just want to deal with you guys. I don't want to do anything more than we have to. But
Sure.
Is there anything I need to know about that could help me out? Or am I, do we know? Like, what would you recommend if you were in my shoes? Kinda.
Well, I can't really give you any sort of legal advice or anything like that. So I can tell you what our process is going to be. Just because there was a shooting involving a gun inside a house, what we're going to do is get a search warrant for the house, okay, and process that scene.
Strangely, Coleman asks the detective, "Is there anything I need to know about that could help me out at all? Like, am I, what would you recommend if you were in my shoes?" Coleman has already told police and detectives that Finn committed suicide. If this is true, all that Coleman needs to do is be honest and tell them about what happened.
Or does he have any guns or any familiarity with guns?
No, that's why that's what's bothering me is I knew that he didn't know, but I kind of figured he had enough sense to stay away at least.
Yeah.
But
so, before we jump to that, I guess let's go through what happened. Where'd you guys go last night? I guess take me through your night.
So we went to the stock show. Me and Jaren drove Finn down to Westminster to his mother's house and dropped him off.
Most of the roommates had already been living in the house. Coleman hadn't been living there long at all, but says the roommates knew about the guns he had and that Finn told him he wasn't familiar with guns. If Finn had ever mentioned being depressed and or suicidal, Coleman should have put the guns away as soon as he arrived back home. The guns should have been put away as soon as they arrived home and not left out on the couch.
So you dropped him off in Westminster. About what time was that?
Let's see, the rodeo started. We got there about 5:30
p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we had to be at the rodeo by 8.
You got to his family's house at 5:30, or to where the stock show is at 5:30.
Probably to his house at 5:30.
Okay.
A little bit sooner, maybe.
Then You just got out of the car and went in, or did you go in and...
Nope, we just dropped him off. He helped out. And then we went on to the stock, or we went on to pick up some of Jaren's older friends that live in Denver. And we all went to the stock show. Everything was good. And we picked him up on the way back.
And does Jaren live up here
Yes.
in Fort Collins?
Yes.
Okay. And what time did you leave the stock show? Or what time did you pick up Finn on the way back up here?
I would say about 11. Yeah.
After the stock show was over, Coleman and Jared picked Finn up to head back to Fort Collins. Before arriving back home, Coleman and Finn dropped Jared off at his girlfriend's house.
Or I guess how much did you have to drink? And how much did Finn have to drink?
Finn had been drinking, so he was drunk. He was pretty drunk. I had not been very drunk.
Drunk when you picked him up, or
He had been drinking when we picked him up, so then when he got home and started drinking more, he was more drunk.
how much would you estimate that he drank while at your house? Obviously, you don't know what he drank before, but
Probably 4 shots.
of what?
Tequila.
And how much would you say you had?
Probably 6.
After Coleman and Finn get back home, Coleman unloads all his weapons and sets them out on the couch, then heads upstairs to drink shots of tequila with Finn.
And we're way past the point where I can do anything or charge you about any sort of DUI or anything like that, so I'm not worried about that at this point. So
I didn't.
Okay. I just want
I
to
was
make
actually the DD for all.
Okay. I just want to make sure you know that's not my focus right now.
No.
Okay.
No.
And I just want to get a whole picture. So
This was one of the many mistakes the police department made during this case. Coleman should have gotten in trouble for underage drinking.
So where were the guns as you guys were drinking? Had you already? Because my understanding was they were in the car previously.
They were in the car, and when I very first got home, I brought them downstairs.
So you brought them in when you first got home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I had them sat on the couch downstairs, and nobody was downstairs, so I thought it would be a safe enough place. And then, right before the incident, I took him in my room and I started pulling clips and checking cylinders, getting ready to put it all back in.
Let me backtrack a second.
After the boys were done drinking, Coleman went downstairs, moved the guns into his room, and began cleaning and emptying them so he could put them away for the night.
So when did Finn come down?
After I had just got done checking the Glock, and that's the one he picked up.
Where were you when he picked it up? And I guess where was the Glock?
So I had the other guns there, and he was here, and all the pillows were right here. And I had just checked it and set it down, and then started to get the other one. And then that's when he came in and grabbed that one up and started looking at it and stuff. And I told him to put it down, like he was being a little bit reckless.
How so?
Just like waving it around and stuff, and like he almost like cocked the slide after it was clear, but there was a clip in there, so if he cocked it, it would be ready to go.
After Coleman had cleared the bullet out of the chamber in the Glock, he started doing the same with the AR-15 as Finn came into the room. Coleman said Finn was drunk. He grabbed the Glock and started waving it around. Coleman told detectives he told Finn, "Don't grab it, don't mess around with it, dude. You can't be pointing guns around like that. It could kill anybody quick." But Finn didn't listen to him.
And then he was sitting next to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reached over to grab the next one, and then as I was grabbing it, I heard the slide, and so then I look over, and is all I can keep seeing is just the slide going forward, and then just boom, like right there. I don't know, I couldn't tell if it was intentional or accident. I don't know.
Coleman said after waving the gun around, pointing it towards him and making jokes, he saw from the side that Finn pulled back the slide, aimed the gun underneath the right side of his chin, and pulled the trigger and shot himself.
So what happened afterwards? So after the shot goes off?
After the shot goes off, I jump up, run upstairs, and I told Bill, and then I didn't know what to do, so I started trying to call people. And
Who did you call?
my mom, my dad, my stepdad, my friend, Jaren. I just couldn't get everybody to pick up.
The boy's other roommate, Isabella Schweigart, who had been asleep, was woken up by Coleman telling her that Finn shot himself. While Coleman is trying to call his family member, Isabella grabs her phone and calls Finn's brother Griffin to tell him what happened so that he could tell their mum.
About how much time would you say elapsed between when the shot was fired and when you called us? After you kind of made those phone calls?
10 minutes, 15 minutes.
10 or 15? Is there any reason in particular? Were you just scared? I mean, what was your thought process, I guess? And
this is such a wild situation, I guess, that I didn't know. I just thought I should go through the people I trust most first, which was my stepdad and my mom.
Though Coleman said he called 911, it was Isabella who called 911 at 3:27 a.m., 15 minutes after Finn had shot himself. She told dispatch, "We are going to need an officer. My roommate shot himself. He's dead."
so what was, I guess, did you take a chance or did you get a chance to evaluate Finn's condition at all right afterwards, or kind of what did you see or what did you assess?
I heard the shot go off, and I saw an unusual amount of blood pour out onto the bed. And just from being a hunter in Southwest Colorado, I kind of assumed that. So I tried to shake him, but I couldn't. I was just a little bit too freaked out.
Sure.
Upstairs.
Yeah, I understand that. And did you get any response when you tried to shake him?
No, it was. I think it was instant.
After Finn had shot himself and fallen onto the bed, Coleman tried shaking his leg to see if he was alive, but he didn't move. Coleman says he is an experienced hunter from the Southwest and assumed Finn was automatically dead.
And then once the police were called, and I guess you were on the phone with dispatch, so you called a couple other people. Your stepdad told you to call us, and you did. What happened from that point on?
Then I ran downstairs and grabbed my phone charger off my nightstand. And they threw in some mouthwash because I didn't want to get it in my pee of all things.
Coleman told police that he used mouthwash before the police arrived because he was afraid he would get into trouble and be charged with a minor in possession citation.
Is there anything else that happened during the night, or I guess over the course of the last couple days or weeks, or anything like that that would be important as I kind of look at the evidence on scene and go through all this?
Nothing I can think of. Like it's been a joyful, everybody. I mean, Finn and Belle got in a fight over Christmas break about.
Are they in a relationship?
No.
Okay.
It was about Finn's girlfriend, because she was just a kind of a friend, but nothing really that all. It was just friendly.
Does he have a girlfriend?
No. He doesn't. It was Christmas. So.
Have you ever seen any sort of signs of any sort of depression, or has he ever made any sort of suicidal type statements, whether they're vague or direct threats or anything like that in the 4 months that you've known him?
He definitely, he's definitely like got a quick anger trigger, but it's never been directed at me because I've always got along with him. But if you're not on his good side, then you're not on his good side.
Coleman tells the detectives that everybody had been getting along, besides when Bella and Finn argued over a Christmas break, and that when you are on Finn's bad side, you're on his bad side. But he didn't recall him mentioning being depressed or making suicidal threats.
Anything he was upset about tonight or over the course of the last week or anything like that?
Nothing that I can think of.
2 months later, police ruled Finn's death as a self-inflicted accidental shooting, but Finn's family knew that something wasn't right. The case was reopened because of a Snapchat photo that was posted by Finn that night, showing Coleman holding the gun that killed Finn just 15 minutes before. This photo brought up a lot of questions based on what Coleman told police and detectives about what happened. The police made many mistakes during this investigation that Finn's family pointed out, such as: investigators didn't order Coleman to have a blood alcohol done, though he admitted to drinking and using mouthwash before cops arrived so he wouldn't get into trouble. Investigators did test Coleman's hands for gunshot residue, but it was not submitted for processing. Coleman told detectives he waited 15 minutes before calling 911. The boy's roommate Isabella was the one to call 911. A Snapchat photo taken moments before the shooting shows Coleman holding the Glock with the caption "Shooter's shot." Coleman went back to his room where Finn was and put away the other gun because he knew it would look bad. Coleman was given 2 separate polygraph tests asking if he shot Finn and failed both. Coleman told the new detective he drank only beer, not tequila. When Coleman was interviewed for a second time, he changed his story and admitted to shooting and killing Finn. Before the 911 call was made, Coleman went around and picked up all the beer cans and marijuana paraphernalia because he was underage. He then ejected the cartridge from the chamber and put the gun back in Finn's lap. Because of this, Coleman pleaded guilty and was charged with tampering with evidence, prohibited use of a weapon while drunk, and reckless endangerment, and received a 2-year deferred sentence, which means he won't receive prison time. He also has to take a gun safety class given by the National Rifle Association.